Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Becoming Zesty. So glad that you are here. The place to be if you are looking to transform, and especially at an accelerated pace. You are welcome here because that's what we're all doing here. So welcome, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Today, I'm going to do an episode where I'm doing coaching. But here's the kicker, I'm doing coaching that I did for myself on a problem that I had, and I'm just going to take you behind the scenes to the kind of stuff that I did. And more specifically, I'm going to use an example in my own life. Obviously, there's just an issue I was having. Not issue, but something that was happening. And then the overarching goal that we are getting at here in this podcast episode is kind of the understanding how the interplay between masculine and feminine within ourselves can happen, and how each can be of service to the other. And in this particular one, my feminine was having an experience. I'll tell you about it. And then there was a way of acting that was coming out from me. And so there was, my feminine was having the issue and taking actions. And then the coaching really came from my masculine coming forward and creating some helpful structures and creating direction points that I can create for myself and in my own life and share with people important to me. Because I'm essentially giving them a playbook of here's my stuff, here's what's going on, here's what that means to me, and here's how to work with me. Here's the stuff that I need. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you can do, and kind of take it from there. So, yeah, that's what we're going to cover today. And it was a really interesting experience for me, like on the inside, to be doing this, because this is something that I wanted to talk about, and like always, life served it up. So that's perfect. Love that. And it gave me a real tangible example to talk through with all of y'all and really break down what it looks like to let our own inner masculine lead our own inner feminine, and how we can use that to improve other relationship in our lives. And sometimes that's us as a feminine with our masculine, or if you're a masculine with your feminine. And so on externally. So very cool stuff that we're going to talk about today. Real quick, I still want to remind you of our upcoming August event, August 23rd and 24th in Dallas, Texas. Come on over to my home state, and we are going to be talking all about habit transformation. So many people have a lot of guilt and shame around sticking to habits, falling off of them, what it says about them, that they can't do XYZ, or they continue to do ABC. We're going to break all that down because there's really no need for guilt and shame. And there are many different ways to tackle and approach our own inner things that come up when it comes to habits and the identity that you hold of yourself. And really, the antidote for us for guilt and shame is resources. right? When you are equipped to handle what you need, not unlike this episode that we're going to talk about today, when you are equipped with the resources to handle your life, the experiences that you have, and the ways that you feel, and to navigate all of who you are, that is really what feels empowering and good, and like we are in control of creating our life, and that we are feeling good about who we are being, and we allow ourselves to change and transform, led by us in the future, right? So if that's not all that's happening for you, or you feel stuck or lost or confused, or you just don't know what you're doing or which way's up, don't worry about it. We got you. Come on over. We're going to put the link in the show notes. And come on over. It is $297. And it is this 2-day retreat is well worth over $2,000. We could easily do that. On the other hand, this is where we want intro retreats and intro things of ours to be really easily accessible, because a lot of people struggle with habits. And a lot of people need help. So that's the kind of thing where when the world needs us to step up, leaders and coaches and practitioners do. And so we're certainly not going to count ourselves out of that whole process. All right, so come on over, click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in person in August in Dallas. All right, so what I'm going to talk about today, let me set it up real quick. So what we're going to talk about is actually I called on the top of my page, Million Question Alex Plan. So I'll explain what that is. So this occurred with another external person. We're just going to call them person B, because their contribution is inconsequential to the actual episode that we're going to talk about. But basically, one thing that was happening was that I was in conversation with person B, multiple touch points about a particular topic. And what was coming up for me was lots of thoughts as we were having these conversations. And then, as we often talk about here on the podcast, thoughts lead to emotions. And certainly emotions can lead to thoughts, but often it's that first way. And because of the emotional state that I found myself in during these conversations, as set by me on the thoughts I was having, I was feeling a lot of pressure on the inside. I'm going to leave that ambiguously as pressure, because part of what we're going to talk about today is actually breaking down what I was feeling. But let's just call it, feeling of pressure on the inside, pressure building. And so part of what me, Alex, does under pressure when I feel squeezed, when I feel the sensation in my body of the chest tightness and my shoulders getting tight and my neck muscles getting tight, my jaw getting tight, as the speed of my thoughts speeds up and the space that pauses between them shortens, right? That's my mental body and physical body coming together. And then emotional body, in that moment, I have tended to deprioritize. Another way of saying that is repress emotional naming, right? And so, and in the moment, it was just emotional pressure and discomfort. And spiritually, I felt very energetically kind of wadded up, right? It just, what am I doing? What are we working on? How are we going to resolve this? What are all the moving pieces? What do I need to think about? What am I forgetting? That general sense of, am I doing right in this world? And then certainly energetically, that our energetic body speaks to us as well and has symptoms just like the physical body, but that is often different qualities of sensation, movement of energy that is felt, or spots that I think of like a dam buildup. There's energetic blockages somewhere, and so part of that pressure buildup is that. So, going through the 4 bodies, that's really that state that all of who we call Alex here, was experiencing. And then out of that pressure popped out a behavior. And the behavior was asking a million questions. And that's why it's called the Million Question Alex Plan, right? And so that is something that is a behavior I tend to engage in when I feel discomfort, and especially this particular kind. My brain really wants to latch on and figure it out. And in some ways, I really like this about myself. Like, this is where we start to get nuances. I'm really good at troubleshooting things. I'm really good at figuring out problems. I'm really good at finding solutions and resources. And like the things you hear me talk about are in part created because like that's who I am, right? And Megan and I create this organically from who we are. And so cool. That there's no problem with that aspect of me, but anytime we have a really good thing about us, often there's situations where there's some downsides where that doesn't apply. And then the reverse is always true too. There's often our worst behaviors often have upsides that still make them viable to keep around. So with that being true, here's like a really great thing. I really like that about myself. I feel proud of that. And here's a scenario where now I'm reacting to my state by engaging in a behavior that's not very easy to work with when you're trying to figure it out, especially when you don't know all the answers to the questions and I'm sitting here asking a bunch of questions, right? And I could certainly see that. So step number one was that I noticed the behavior. Luckily, person B was a mirror and an honest one at that and just pointed it out. And it's something that I have noticed underneath the surface. So once it was brought to my attention, it was just like, oh, God, yes, I'm very aware of what's happening here. And then what happened next was that I realized was that in the looking at the behavior and what was driving it, that pressure buildup that I was experiencing wasn't very clear to me. And so this is where I'm in. You can hear already in this story, there's kind of a feminine and masculine coming to a head component of the story, right? Because my feminine's flowing with something, I'm feeling myself, and also I'm interjecting these masculine, like trying to figure it out, fix it, and get the problem solved. And so they're not collaborating very well. So it's not that one was excluded or anything like that. They just weren't really in partnership within me. And so as I took a step back, I realized, one, for the base of who I am and me, I am feminine, so that's why that's that base. For me, my usual approach that feels the best to flow and be flexible and to let things unfold and to pull things from the unknown and create from scratch, that stuff I still wanted to do, but I realized that there were things that needed to be described in that pressure buildup of what my feminine internally was experiencing that my masculine was actually trying to solve, but doing so in a way that didn't lead to the outcomes or the results or even the experience along the way that I was going for. And that is why then when I parsed it out, I was like, let me just pull it apart. How can the masculine in me be of service to the feminine that I want to support, and in supporting, allowing myself to live comfortably, easily, and effortlessly from that place? What does she need for my masculine to put forth? And how can that bring more harmony to these aspects of me and bring them more into partnership with one another so that I could get what I wanted to accomplish actually accomplished? So step number one was figuring out the pressure feeling. And I realized that sometimes I'm feeling two different things, and that if I looked at all of the experiences that I could think of across that I had engaged in this behavior with, there were 3 distinct versions of why that pressure buildup was created that had the common denominator of asking a million questions of somebody. And sometimes it was like 2 together, and sometimes when I thought it was just 1 out of the 3. And then I couldn't think of a concrete time, but I'm almost certain that there's been a time where I've had all 3 going on at once. And what was interesting was that out of the 3, they broke up really, really neatly into which one fell more under the focus on me creating resolution. One was a shared resolution, and one was if someone wanted to work with me on a particular topic where this applied, there was a lot that I could tell them was available to them to help work with me. And so, and still, all of them still have me at the helm of it, right? And so it was really cool to see how neatly things got broken down. And so here are the 3 categories of that pressure feeling that I realized happened in me. For number 1 is I'm in go mode. And another way to say that is that I'm stressed out and I've been leaning heavily, more on my masculine to accomplish things. So what this looks like is I'm working in clinic. I have calls for business. I'm answering emails. I'm running through the grocery store list and run for dinner. I'm picking up stuff for the house. I'm running all of these checklists, right? And that can be a day. And sometimes as I go through that day, I have continued that go, go, go mode past when I'm done with those activities, but I bring that energy and the spirit of the checklist into other conversations, into other contexts in life where they don't apply anymore. And so for many of us, it's the work day and then transitioning to home mode. And there, for leaders and coaches and practitioners, a lot of us don't have always 9 to 5 standard days. And so that it's actually work and then interspersed with something else, and then work and then interspersed with something else and work. And you're kind of coming and going from all these things. And it's very easy, and at least for me, I guess this is about me, coaching me, so I can just only speak for me on this one, but I sure have heard it a lot from other people, is it's easy to just keep that energy going so that you don't have to switch from work mode to home mode, but in not doing so, it costs you something, right? And so for me, that category felt pretty dang neatly into this is for me to manage. For one, it is up to me to decide what all I ask myself to do in a day. There's some things that people can ask of me, sure, that become the things I have to do and things I need to do become kind of the skeleton. But then what else am I signing up for? What else am I saying yes to? And what is that costing me in the grand scheme of things? So that's one. Now, sometimes you're just in a busy season of life. Honestly, that's me right now. I like all this stuff going on, but it's busy. That's cool, but I got to manage that. And so I have developed multiple plans for that. And one of them is, my first bullet point is get out of your head plan. Because I have sat and developed and vetted out and tried on and given myself feedback on the things that work that get me out of the checklist mode and into physically being and having more of an awareness of my body, settling into it, of feeling how I'm feeling, of assessing what I need, and just generally saying, cool, I've managed the mental body, let me go manage the rest of me. Let me drop down into the awareness of this physical vessel that I'm in. And I have a whole list of resources that I have for that. I also have an alter ego for feminine mode. And so if I've been writing out my masculine, once I realize it, the alter ego protocol is one that I have locked and loaded. I have ways of describing that to the people in my life. I have ways of reminding myself that. I have ways of taking action from that alter ego. All that has already been in set, but now I merge it with when I'm realizing that this is happening, and ideally in doing so, I look for earlier and earlier exit signs of how I recognize it before I take the action that I don't super love. Then this on the getting out of that go, go, go mode, getting out of my head plan gets merged with my alter ego plan of femininity. Bullet point 3 for me was moving the body, right? Part of getting in the body was also having body movement that I have fine-tuned for myself that I like. I have certain YouTube videos that I have saved and Nike workout things that I have saved. And I have generally a plan for, depending on what's going on, how do I want to move my body, and getting more specific about it. So that was one easy one that I know really works for me when I'm switching. I've been in work mode and then it's time to go in home mode. The body movement has really worked for me. And so in having this, in there it went on that. And then when the last bullet point was, all of that was up to me. And then there's a question: is person B available for me to dump the bucket, so to speak? And so when Megan and I use the dump the bucket, you'll hear it a lot in level 1 or our August retreat when you come, or even in our online program. Dumping the bucket is basically like the acknowledgement of, I have a lot to get out on a topic. Can I just word vomit it out? And so dumping the bucket can be done on my own too, and I can certainly do that. But if my mind is off on a thing and I identify that and person B is available for it, is there availability for dumping the bucket in a shared safe space where what we're working on can be explored, and I can have a safe container to express those things. And then when I've dumped the bucket, I'm good, go on to the next thing. So because I know how that works out for me, I knew that in this state that would be great. So this is where you can hear most of this is for me, but really at any point I can ask for help recognizing exit signs or recognizing femininity or recognizing when I'm doing something, right? So it's not that I'm in a vacuum or anything, but in this case, my go mode, it is for me. So that was category 1. Category 2 was, I am worried about an actual specific concern. This isn't, I'm just in go mode and I'm thinking things through. This is, I have identified something that I think appears like an issue. Now, we can certainly talk about whether, does anyone really have a problem, and aren't every issue you have a blessing and whatever. Cool. Yes, absolutely. That's all true. But for the sake of getting through this, there's some things in life that you just feel like is a problem, right? It's an obstacle, it's an issue, whatever, you're worried about it. And so this is that category where I can have an issue identified, or I can identify that person B has an issue with something, and that makes me feel a type of way. So this is the category that I was talking about when I'm worried about something or I'm seeking reassurance on something. This is where in a two-person situation, there can be a shared resolution too, because sometimes there are these situations where it's not just solely about us and there is bleeding over of different things happening. And so one of the things is creating the distinction between the issues. For example, there are issues that have answers to them, right? And then that's what I put under, I'm worried about something because I haven't figured out what I want to do or what's going to happen here yet. And that is a conversation that can be had. Contrasted with scenarios that require reassurance are things, often for me at least, where it's a concern, but there's not necessarily a resolution. For example, people will do this in the context of having control in life, right? Like, you could say that you have control over 100% of what happens to you, but things just seem to happen, right? So no one can make me not feel worried about the fact that something can just happen to me unexpectedly in some ways, right? Because they can do so, but it doesn't change the fact that they can't stop life from lifing at me. So that's what I mean by resolution. Whereas reassurance is, life can life at you, but I'm here with you, but you can handle it, right? And so that's not fixing the problem of not having control of everything in life, but it's reassuring that even if that happens, here's a reassuring resolution without modification of what's actually happening on the outside. And so those are the two things. And so for me, it was important in this category. It's kind of like, if I'm worried, have we talked about this before? Have we gotten to a resolution? And do I need to be reminded of it? Or if I've gotten reassurance that worked in the past, can I ask for or can I receive that same reassurance? Is person B available to have that conversation again? Or if we haven't had it, is this a conversation that can be done right now? Because sometimes both people are worried or need reassurance, and here's the kicker, they might be on opposite topics, right? And so one person's looking for reassurance that the other person's kind of waiting to give them reassurance once they get their reassurance, and if no one moves, it's a stalemate. And so sometimes when both people are triggered, this is where this kind of discussion on what happens next is more predicated on the fact that you got to figure out what you're dealing with, right? So this has less of a bullet point list in terms of action, but you can hear this bullet point list has a bunch of questions, right? What's the concern? Whose concern is it? How does person A feel about it? How does person B feel about it? Have we talked about this before? Why am I worried? What kind of reassurance am I looking for? Is this something that can be addressed, or does it need to be reassured? Is person B available to do the reminding? Am I available to remind person B? And lastly, when is a good time for us to do that for each other if it's not now? All right, so very, very different category, right? Very different sounding approach, because while the pressure buildup in me feels the same, when I really break it down by the four bodies on specifically what's happening in each, these three categories come out. And because they're different, it totally makes sense that the kind of resources that are appropriate and the approach that's appropriate is then different. And of course, that includes the awareness that it's because different categories have different proportions of what role each of us can play in it. At least in this scenario for me, right? Not every scenario is going to go exactly like this, but there's a lot of scenarios in life that will break down exactly like this. All right, so let's go to the last one. This is category 3. All right, so this one's actually really different again, but it's because the pressure's the same, but this is I'm excited about something, but I don't yet have the capacity to channel it in that direction. Either it's too early, or something else hasn't happened yet, or someone else isn't ready, right? But I'm ready, I'm excited, here I am, and all bags packed and energy all swirled up and nowhere to go, right? And so when it came to this particular scenario that I was doing this coaching with myself on, I realized that what I was excited about, a lot more of the control and the responsibility and the actions did lie with person B, right? And I was like, oh, okay, that's why I have the pressure build of I really am excited, but because I can't necessarily direct it in the way that I would just take off, galloping into the sunset like I do with, a lot of stuff. I just get excited and go. I don't know if it's the fire sign or the projector or just I'm weird. I don't know. But some makes me do that. And so since I couldn't, I realized I was like, oh, that's why in this category, person B really at the end of the day has a lot of sway over this. And so in this category, there's absolutely things that I can do to manage it and options that I can take. But also, this facilitates so many helpful, really positive discussions that could be had, because in this category, what I realized was I just want to talk about this and get all excited and daydream and have them participate with me. And really, that's all I need. This category, it was when I realized that, I was like, oh, it's so easy. Like, I just want to have shared excitement. I want to sit around and sort of like ruminate on these exciting things that could be to come. And yeah, I know they're daydreams. I'm not trying to predict the future. I know I can't really. It's more just, it feels so good to think about it, and that allows me to channel the excitement into creative energy that helps me bring it into existence, and also just makes me feel good at the time. Just makes me excited. It gets, to have me more aware of the excitement. Like, I'm already excited, but when I feel like I can't channel it, it's just that pressure. It's not really that fun, excited, zingy feeling that you're like, ooh, I'm so jazzed about this. It's stifled. And so in letting the lid off of that one with person B, I just realized how much I could accomplish, even from like a manifestation standpoint, but also from connection, from, kind of even talking through, sometimes when you're daydreaming together, things pop out like, oh, that's an expectation that you have, or, oh, that's something that you want, or this is something that I want. Oh, I didn't know I expected that. I didn't know that I'd put this together like that. And then you talk about it and it moves things forward. Nothing's happening in life, but things are happening in life, right? You're more prepared. And so for me, this seemed really fun. And so on the bullet points under this one, first and foremost, it really came down for me realizing it's about timing. If this is a shared daydream, so to speak, when can we come together on it? So how can I recognize my desire to ask a million questions, or hopefully, seeing exit signs for the excitement before I get to the million questions, and just say, when I feel this sensation bubbling up, this is a question I can ask. Hey, I'd love to talk about this. Is now a good time or later? However you want to ask it, it doesn't matter. But that's kind of what I was getting at for me, of recognizing just because I'm ready to daydream does not mean that if they're not, I subtly try to meet my own needs by asking a million questions instead. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to get somebody to like give me what I want when they're not ready for it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of behavior where we act from needing something, as opposed to like being in our empowerment and letting people be where they are and truly honoring their free will as well as yours. And so for me, it's just asking more of the question, where are we at? And then that flowed into bullet point 2 pretty much seamlessly for me, because once I thought that, I realized, well, even though this is where it's most appropriate to channel the excitement on this, because it has to do with person B, there are other people in my life that I can get excited with and I can daydream with and I can share stuff, and I can certainly do that. So if the timing is desirable for me, not great for person B, okay, then is there someone else that I can go to? Or even just journaling, right? Doing it with me was the next one. So they went in order of excitement, but still I realized any one of those will work. If once I recognize this category, I am good to do that, and I will always like to circle back around to the person that the situation pertains to. And in any scenario, I know I just knowing myself, I know I'd like to do that. But there's other things that I can do without engaging in behaviors that are essentially trying to like get something, right? Where I'm trying to meet my own needs in a way that doesn't feel good to somebody else, and ultimately ends up making me not feel great about it either. And then the last bullet point really was a question too. How do I create languaging? How do I let the people around me that I'm close with know that there are times that I want to daydream and I'm just excited, and can they do that with me? And often what I like doing is having initial conversations where I explain what's happening in my noggin. And then I ask, is there a way that I can, from that whole explanation, which was longer, how do you think I can, what phrase can I use? What word can I use? How can we communicate so that you know that it represents this whole thing that I just explained to you? And often it's very easy to come up with a phrase or a code word that represents, here's where I am and this is what I'm trying to do, so that the other people in your life can immediately be caught up to that, right? You don't need to solve, in this case for me, none of those people need to solve anything for me. I'm not looking to take any action. I am not looking to discuss an issue. I'm not looking to solve some future problem. All I'm doing in that moment is just expressing excitement. But oftentimes, the same thing with venting or the same thing with daydreaming, oftentimes we are so geared to listen to other people talk and think of, what should I reply? What do I need to fix? What needs to happen? You go through your own internal checklist, right? Instead of just being with the other person. And so knowing that that's common and knowing that most of us do it, how can we say, I'm not expecting you to recognize when I'm in this mood. I'm not expecting you to mind read that I don't need this fixed. What's a short way for me to describe, this is where I am. I'm really stoked. I don't have anywhere to put it. And let's just have or even if you don't feel like talking, just can I daydream with you? Can I get excited with you? Can I share in this energy with you? And in doing so, I have really come to have a different understanding. Firing that off, especially that last bullet point in this column, overall, I really realized, like, when people talk about the manifestation process or just creation while we're on this planet and creation as powerful beings, creating those states and allowing myself to marinate in the feeling of that excitement has has made those things that I've been reading and learning even more concrete. These are things that I've known already, obviously. To step into the new identity is always the first step and the most important step of doing something or being something or having something new. But in this way, it reiterated and highlighted and could allow me to see that my ability to feel good and imagine stuff isn't just for me to be lost in a daydream. It actually impacts what happens. And to keep doing that, to keep exploring it, and to find more and more pockets of when I feel the pressure, how can I guide it towards this excited feeling, now has honestly, the group number 3, the awareness of it, that column became its own resource for the other 2. So isn't that funny? I didn't even see that from the outset. But column 3 almost became the solution for columns 1 and 2. Or did I say that right? Column 3 became the solution for 1 and 2. Because if I can cultivate excitement with somebody, even in the face of being go, 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 they'll get me out of it. Or even in the face of a concern, maybe I don't have an answer to, getting excited gives me something to do until I get to the answer, right? And it reminded me how much good feelings and cultivating good states gives you that sense of empowerment and also confidence. I think oftentimes with confidence, everyone's seeking it, but it's more like things will happen and then I'll feel excited. But in doing so, I took, something that I was annoying somebody else with. This is not the best of Alex. Got more perspective, improved relationships, and ultimately understood more about myself as a powerful creator. Not bad for, an annoying situation, right? Or even being the annoying one in a situation. And this is where, I talk about it a lot. The emotional compass is so important to liberate for us, the emotional body, because without the ability to name these things, to recognize it, and to utilize our even states like, ooh, I don't feel great about that, to begin to break things down. Ooh, this is how this feels, and this is what it reminds me of. And this is how I feel. And if I follow that, this makes me feel better. And the emotions that I can name become more of what I want in my life. That kind of stuff is giving us freedom to choose to be who we want to be from like a free place. Not from a place of this is where we've been, this is who we've been, and we're stuck doing that, where we need to keep that truck going. We just need to cover up that stuff with better looking stuff, right? Instead of just saying, I can become whoever I want to become, and I can let that stuff go, and I can step into the new identity, and I just have the power to do that, and no one can tell me that I can't. Well, heck, it's pretty confidence-inducing and empowering to think in that way. So I certainly invite you to do this type of work when you notice yourself wanting to sweep something under the rug or maybe hide an aspect of yourself that you're not super proud of. You can use it instead. You can use it to create plans like this. That's why I take you behind the curtain. And when you work with others, having done it for yourself allows you, one, to see them more compassionately and empathically, because more than likely, if you're doing the work, you've been there. That's what I always say. I've been all these things, so it's cool. And then it also allows you to see there's more of who you are beyond that. There's more to be discovered. And as you find that, you step into the fullness of who you are, and it literally feels like you're like, oh, I'm bigger. Like the problems of the world don't seem as big when you grow, right? You are bigger. Those problems will at least appear smaller. It's a proportion thing. So heck, liberate the rest of you, find the freedom, and all these things start to flip the equation from lost and stuck and confused to, all right, well, it's up to me. Let me see what I want to do. Let me figure it out. Let me figure out who I want to be and get myself there. And I'll feel pretty good about that and the process. All right, so thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad that you were here for this. We appreciate every single one of you that listens and shares this podcast. Thank you so much for the reviews that you leave. We really, really appreciate you helping us get the word out to the world about what we do and what kind of change we're making in the world. The more thought leaders and coaches and practitioners that we can gather here and give them all the resources that they need to thrive, world change can happen incredibly rapidly. And Megan and I, for one, are super excited for it. We hope you are too. We'll catch you on the next podcast episode.
And we are going to end today's episode with a couple words from one of our fabulous attendees at the last 2-day habit event. So check out what she has to say.
Well, I just love Megan and Alex. I've found them on a podcast about 4 years ago, and what really, really has always attracted me to them is their ability to consistently be vulnerable and transparent about growth and how messy it is and how it's really non-linear. So when they dropped that they were doing a habit transformation live event in my hometown, it was a total yes for me. I was just excited to be in their presence because I love them. They hit all of the things for me. I know that I'm gonna walk away with tons of value. They're funny, which is a core value of mine, and they make everything feel way easier than it is. I was really going in hoping to figure out why there were some habits that I just continue to fall into. As a business owner, I know that my habits and my mindset directly affect how my business is doing, how my relationships and my life are doing, and all of the things. And there's a couple key areas I keep getting stuck in habits, and they really helped me understand why I'm getting stuck, and that if I actually take it a level further, that my intention in these habits is usually rooted in something really different than what it seems to be at surface value. And I had major breakthroughs. So once I had those breakthroughs, I was like, oh my God. And the other thing that I really left with was this super deep inner confidence, that the realization that I always have the power, that I've always had the power, but by them sharing some different techniques and tools that I could use, that really digging into the deep intention really connects me back to myself, which taught me that it's always in my own power to make the decisions on do I or do I not want to do this habit, and where that's showing up in my life, where I have leaky habits and boundaries and so forth. So if you've been thinking about attending one of their events or working with them in general, it's a total yes. Those two ladies are magical. They are here to really create real deep impact. And if you're craving a deeper sense of confidence, a deeper sense of clarity, just a deeper understanding of who you are, highly, highly recommend it. Megan and Alex are the best. Chef's kiss.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.